There is a crock of lard on the shelf beside my stove that I rendered myself last November, and I will cook out of it every single day until it is empty. Butter's on this table at breakfast, at dinner, and again at supper. There was sausage in the pan this morning, and there will be gravy on the potatoes tonight, and not one bit of that is a special occasion. That is Tuesday. That is every Tuesday I have had in 65 years. And here's the thing the English have a hard time with. A man named David Bassett went into an old order community with pedometers and a scale, and he wrote down what he found. And when he counted up the men, not one of them was obese. Not one. 0 out of the whole lot of them. You have been told, since before I had grandchildren, that the butter is what is doing it to you. Take the fat out. Buy the tub that is not butter. Trim the meat. Skim the milk. Put the skin off the chicken in the bin. And a good many of you have done exactly as you were told for years, and stood on the scale after all that and found it has not gone the way anybody promised. That is a hard thing to carry, and I do not think it is your fault. So today I am going to set the whole table out in front of you. I will show you what is actually on it, and I will show you the number that explains the whole business. It is one number, and once you have it, you will never look at our cooking the same way. And because I am not in the business of selling anybody a story, I will also show you the 2 places where our table is plainly worse than yours, because both of those are true, and you deserve to hear them from me instead of finding them out later. My name is Miriam Fisher. I was born in Lancaster County, and I have never lived anywhere else. I raised 9 children out of this kitchen. I have rendered lard every November since I was old enough to be trusted at the stove, and I have never once in my life bought a stick of margarine. Stay with me, because the part most folks get wrong is not the food at all, and I will not keep you waiting long for it. Let me start with what is true, and let me be careful, because there is a great deal of nonsense said about us, and I will not add to it. The first thing is that the fat is real. It is not a story. There were researchers who went into Amish settlements in Ohio and asked people to write down everything they ate, and then they asked their non-Amish neighbors in the same counties to do the same, and they compared the 2. The Amish were getting about 16 to 17% of all their calories out of saturated fat. Their English neighbors, living down the same road, were getting 12 to 13, so we are eating about a third, more of the very thing everyone is told to eat less of. That is measured. That is written down. It is not my grandmother's opinion. And the Amish men in that study were eating more altogether, somewhere near 2,700 calories in a day, where the non-Amish men were closer to 2,300. More food and fattier food from the same stretch of road. The second thing is where that food comes from, and this is the part I would have you remember over all the rest. 97 out of 100 Amish households in that study grew their own produce. 74 out of 100 had eaten meat that year from an animal butchered at home. The butter came out of the churn, the lard came out of the hog, the eggs came from under the hens in the morning. Almost nothing on our plate has been through a factory, and almost nothing on it has a list of ingredients, because the ingredient is the thing itself. Let me set a day of it in front of you, so it is not all numbers. Breakfast is eggs and potatoes fried out of the cellar, and sausage or scrapple, and bread with butter, and pancakes. Besides, when the work is going to be heavy, because the men are going out, and there will be nothing more until noon. Dinner is the big meal, and it comes at midday, not at night. A roast or a chicken, potatoes, gravy, whatever the garden has that month, bread and pie. Supper's lighter and is often what dinner left behind. The butter dish sits out through all 3, and nobody thinks to move it. And between those meals, there is nothing at all. No bag of anything at 10 in the morning, no bowl of anything at 9 at night. 3 meals at the same hours, and the hours are set by the work and not by anybody's appetite. That lard I mentioned is a November job. When the hog is butchered, the fat gets cut into pieces and set in a big kettle over a low fire for the better part of a day, and it gives up clear grease slowly, and what settles at the bottom are the cracklings, which the children fight over and always have. You strain it off into crocks, and it turns white and firm as it cools, and it keeps on that shelf until the next November. The butter is the same sort of business. Cream skimmed off the milk into the churn, and you work it until it breaks and comes together in a lump. Neither one of them is hard. Both of them are only time that somebody spent, and I think that is the actual reason they went out of the world, not anything anybody discovered about health. So when I say we eat butter and lard, I want you to hear what I am actually saying. I am not saying fat is good for you. I am not a doctor. I have never told a living soul what to eat. And I am not going to start on a video. What I am saying is that our people eat more of it than yours do, out of a pan, at every meal, and it has not settled on us the way you would expect. And there is a reason, and it is not the butter. Here is the number when David Bassett put pedometers on those Amish men and let them go about an ordinary week. The average came back at 18,425 steps in a day. The women came in at 14,196. The average American walks somewhere around 5,000, so a working man in that study was on his feet for 3.5 times the walking of the man watching this before he sat down to a single bite of anything. That is what the butter has to get through, and it is not 1 hour of hard exercise either. That is what I think gets missed. Those same men reported about 43 hours a week of moderate work and 10 hours of the heavy kind, pitching, hauling, lifting, mowing, spread from the milking before daylight to the last chore after supper. There is no hour of the day set aside for it, and there is no hour of the day free of it. The men who did that study wrote that this was probably the very top end of what they called lifestyle activity in all of North America. Not athletes, farmers. Nobody in the settlement has ever been to a gym, and nobody here has ever done a jumping jack on purpose. And I can tell you exactly where those steps come from, because I have put a good many of them on myself. There is no tap over my sink, the way there is over yours. Water is pumped and water is carried. Monday is wash day, and wash day means hauling it hot, working the wringer, and then out to the line and back, and out and back again all morning. The garden wants weeding on your knees, and the beans want picking bent over. The barn sits a good walk from the house, and you go out to it before daylight for the milking, and you go again at evening. Nobody drives to the mailbox here. Nobody drives to church either. The horse gets hitched, and the horse himself is work before he is transportation. By the time I sit down to dinner at noon, I have been up 5 hours, and I have not once been off my feet, and there is no willpower in any of it. I want to be plain about that because the English talk about health as though it were a matter of wanting it badly enough. Nobody in this house is being good. The house is simply built so that the only way to have a thing is to go and fetch it, and a body that fetches from the age of 6 turns into a different body than one that does not. I want you to sit with that a minute because it changes what our table means. A pound of butter is not the same thing on 2 different days. On a day that has 18,000 steps in it, and a hay wagon, and a garden, and a barn floor to sweep. That butter is fuel, and it is gone by evening. On a day that has a car, a desk, an elevator, and a sofa in it, that same butter has nowhere to go. The food did not change. The day changed. That is the whole of it, and there is no secret underneath it. Now, the part where I tell you the truth about us because I said I would, we are not all thin. I want that said plainly because there are videos out there that will tell you every Amish person is lean as a rail, and that is simply not so. In that same study, about 1/4 of the men, and a bit better than 1/4 of the women, were carrying more weight than they ought to, and 9 out of 100 of the women were obese, even while none of the men were. Look back at the walking numbers and you can see why the gap sits where it does. The men were at 18,000 steps, the women at 14,000. 14,000 is a hard day's work by anybody's measure, and it is still 4,000 short, and it shows up in the scale. We are people. We eat too much pie at weddings, same as anyone. And here's the second thing, and this one embarrasses me a little to say. That Ohio study also counted vegetables, and the Amish ate fewer servings of them in a day than the non-Amish neighbors did. Fewer. Our table is meat and potatoes and gravy and bread and pie, and it is not the health table anybody imagines when they picture us. If you came here for a plate of greens, you would leave hungry and a little confused, so do not copy our plate. I mean that. If you take one thing out of the next 10 minutes, take that. Copy the day and leave the plate where it is, and eat more vegetables than we do, because on that count, your neighbors have us beat, and I am not going to pretend otherwise. There is one more piece of this that I would be dishonest to leave out, and it has nothing to do with what is in the pan. Our people do not smoke, not as a rule, not the way the world does. And when researchers at Ohio State, a woman named Judith Westman led it, went and counted cancer among the Ohio Amish against everybody else in Ohio, the Amish rate came in at about 60% of the states. For the cancers that come from tobacco, it was 37%. Now, you will find people on the internet who take that number and hang it on the butter. And I want to be the one to tell you they are wrong to do it. Those researchers said themselves that leaving tobacco alone explains a great deal of it, though not the whole. It is not the lard. Nobody has ever shown that lard did a thing about cancer, and I am not going to be the first to say it did. Which brings me to the one I get asked about most, and the one where I have to disappoint some of you. We do not live longer than you. I know that is not what you have heard. There was a time when we did. Amish men born back in the 1890s and the early 1900s, the ones who made it past 25, were outliving their neighbors in Ohio by about 5 years. But that gap has closed, and then some, because the English got hospitals and antibiotics and heart surgery, and we largely stayed as we were. Today our years run about the same as everybody else's, and by some counts, a little under. We come out ahead on very few things, and behind on others, and I would rather tell you that than sell you a long life in a butter dish. What is different is what goes on inside those years. There is no retirement here. I do not mean that as a compliment to our work ethic. I mean there is no pension to take and no date to take it on. A man does not stop at 65 because there is nothing waiting on the other side of stopping. Somewhere between 50 and 70, the heavy work gets handed down to a son, and the lighter work comes up to meet you. You go from the plow to the harness bench, from the field to the garden, from hauling the milk to minding the grandchildren. My mother-in-law was shelling peas on the porch at 88 because that was her job, and everybody knew it was her job. When the older folks step back from the main house, they usually move into the Grossdaadi Haus, the grandparents' house, which is not a separate place across town, but a wing built onto the same building with its own door and its own stove in the same yard. There are no Amish retirement homes. Not because we are noble about it, because nobody ever built one, and the family is the arrangement, and the handing down happens by inches, which I think matters more than anybody notices. Nobody is told on a Tuesday afternoon that they are finished. A man of 60 still hitches the team, but his son takes the heavy end of the load. A man of 70 is in the shop mending harness and sharpening blades, and the field belongs to somebody else now. A woman of 80 is not running the wash, but she is shelling and sewing and minding the little ones and keeping the bit of garden nearest the door. The work comes down with you as far as you can carry it, and there is always some of it cut small enough to still be yours. And I think that is where the real difference lies. A body that can carry a bucket at 80 was built by 80 years of carrying buckets. There is no food on this earth that builds that, and nothing sold anywhere that will sell it to you. What builds it is never once being allowed to stop and having something waiting every morning that needed doing, and having that something get gentler as you get older instead of vanishing all at once on a Friday afternoon. So let me give you the part you can actually use, because I have no interest in showing you a life you cannot have. You have a car and a job in town, and I know it, and I am not going to tell you to buy a hog. Do not chase the fat, chase who made it. The difference between our table and the one you are worried about is not butter against no butter. It is made against bought. A potato you peeled in a pan with butter you can name is a different supper from a thing that came out of a bag with a paragraph on the side, and the second one is where the trouble usually lives. Cook it yourself, and you can stop reading labels because there will not be any. Move the whole day, not 1 hour of it. This is the one I would press on hardest. 18,000 steps is an arrangement of a life rather than a piece of exercise. The pump is out at the barn, so you walk to the barn. The wash goes on the line, so you walk to the line. Put the errand back into the day on purpose. Park at the far end. Take the stairs. Carry the load twice instead of once. An hour at a gym and 11 hours in a chair is not the same shape of day as ours, even when the numbers on a chart look close. Eat at a set hour, at a table with people. Our meals come at the same time every day. Everyone sits down together, and when supper's over, the kitchen is done for the night. Nobody wanders back in at 9 o'clock with a bowl of something. I did not plan that as a health measure. It is just how a house with 9 children has to run. But I noticed the English eat most of their food standing up and alone and at no particular time, and I think that costs them something. Eat more vegetables than we do. I said it before, and I will say it once more, because it is the honest bit. And leave the tobacco alone. That is the only one on this list that anybody has actually counted. And the counting was not close. Now let me put it all in one place so you have it. The fat on our table is real and measured. 16 to 17% of our calories against 12 to 13 for our neighbors. Almost none of it comes from a factory. Nearly every household grows its own. 3 in 4 eat meat they raised. The men in that study walked 18,425 steps a day and worked better than 40 hours a week at it, against about 5,000 steps for the average American. Not one of those men was obese, and a quarter of them were still overweight, and 9% of the women were obese, so we are not saints, and I will not have anyone say we are. We eat fewer vegetables than the English do. Our cancer rate runs at about 60% of Ohio's, and the tobacco is the biggest part of that, not the pan. And we do not live longer than you. We simply keep working further in. It is not the butter that keeps us. It is the day. The butter has to get through. One more thing before I let you go, and I say this because somebody will need to hear it. If your doctor has you on something, or has told you to change how you eat, he has seen your blood, and I have not. I am a woman in a kitchen in Lancaster County, telling you what is on my table and how my days go. I am not a doctor, and nothing I have said is advice for anybody's body. Take the walking, take the cooking at home, take the supper hour, leave the rest with the man who knows your numbers. I would like to know one thing from you, and I do read these. My granddaughter brings them out and reads them to me on the porch. Tell me what fat your grandmother cooked in. Lard, butter, bacon grease, drippings out of a tin by the stove. And tell me what part of the country she was in. I want to see how many of you had that tin in the house and how recently it went away. My guess is it was closer than you think. Next time I want to show you the November work, how a family puts up a whole year of lard in one afternoon, what the kitchen smells like, and why the last jar out of that batch is better than the first. It is one of the few days of the year the men come into the kitchen and stay there. Take care of yourselves And if you do only one thing this week, walk out to the far end of the lot and back, and then eat your supper without a bit of guilt in it,